Good evening, everyone. Good evening, and thank you for coming. Since 5 p.m. this evening, we as a Board of Education have been in closed session for purposes of reviewing lawfully closed meeting minutes, appointment and employment of compensation of discipline, performance, and dismissal of specific employees, litigation matters, purchase or sale of lease of real property and use of the district, and student disciplinary actions. So with that, I would like to make a motion to come out of closed session, please.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. First of all, good evening and thank you for being here. It's great to have a big crowd. I know you're not going to be here for the whole evening, but we're grateful that you're here for whatever part you're able to stay. And I'd like to go over our most important thing, our mission statement, which we live by and our students live by, and the staff, is to educate students to be self-directed learners, collaborative workers, complex thinkers, quality producers, and community contributors. And with that, I will ask Ms. Bell for a roll call, please.
Student ambassadors present: Stephen Trainer, Austin Hansen. Board members present: Kristen Fitzgerald, Susan Price, Terry Fielden, Jackie Romberg, Mike Yench, Donna Wanke, and Susan Crotty.
Thank you. And next on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, and we have some wonderful students that are helping us with the pledge, and from Ranchview Elementary School. And please stand as you're able. And I will have the principal introduce herself as well as her students. Thank you, Susan. Look at this great crowd. We love that. We love that.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sue Salnis, and I'm the principal of Ranchview Elementary School. And with me this evening, I have representatives from our student council, and I have our student council leader, Mrs. Virginia Jamnicki, with us today. I'm going to ask our students to introduce themselves to you, so here we go.
Anushka Galati, Allison Barrett, Zach Maui, Michael Schott, Matthew Berryman, Reese Kennedy, Maddie O'Brien.
And so now we'll say the pledge together. Please join us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Nice to see you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, a highlight of our week. So we have a very exciting good news section of our Board of Education meeting tonight, and I will turn that over to our superintendent. Please.
I think for our first group recognition, I'm going to ask that is Nancy Lulo here. She want to join me up here. But tonight we have the opportunity to recognize the Team 203 Special Olympic track athletes. So I'll let Director of Pupil Services, Nancy Lulu, talk to you a little bit about that.
And this evening, we are very honored to have members of our Team 203 state track team here to be recognized by Dan Bridges, our superintendent, our Board of Education, our cabinet members, and the community at large. To make those introductions, we have our coaches, Christina Higginbomber and also Lindsay Greer. Come on up.
Thank you so much for being here. We're so proud of our Team 203 athletes this year. And we just wanted to take this time to recognize those who could make it this evening. First off, Haley Wegerer, second in the softball throw. Alan Thames, fourth place in the running long jump. Louis Pisani, third place in the softball throw. Maura O'Grady, third place in the 100-meter run and third place in the 200-meter run. And we'd like to also recognize those who could not be with us this evening. Zach Wechtowitz, fifth place in the 50-meter run. Stephen Gotsis, fifth place in the softball throw and fourth place in the 100-meter run. Patrick Edwards, third place in the tennis ball throw. Owen Conroy, second place in the tennis ball throw. Gabe Gradishar, fifth place in the 200-meter run. And our 4x100-meter relay, consisting of Kevin Briegel, Gabe Gradishar, Maura O'Grady, and Louis Pisani, second place. If they could come back up and get their certificates. Oh, they're back there. Thank you so much.
Any parents who would like to take a picture now, feel free to come on up and grab your shot. Coaches, would you please go up and join your students? There you go.
And more than 1.5 million juniors in some 22,000 high schools entered the 2014 National Merit Program by taking the 2013 preliminary SAT National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test, which served as an initial screen of program entrance. The nationwide pool of semifinalists, which represents less than 1% of high school seniors, includes the highest scoring entrants in each state. These academically talented high school seniors have an opportunity to continue in the competition for some 8,000 Merit Scholarship Awards worth more than $35 million that will be offered next spring. So I'd like to invite Principals Bill Wiesbrook and Kevin Pops to come forward and join me in recognizing National Merit Scholarship semifinalists from Naperville Central and Naperville North High Schools.
I'd first like to say that the students who are here this evening are honored to be here. Not all of our students could be here this evening because of previous commitments. Some of them are at North right now at a University of Chicago recruiting opportunity, and there are a couple of other selective colleges that are in the area right now doing programs tonight. And we have a number of students who are in the marching band, and marching band practice trumps everything. So, but they wanted our RSVP to be passed along to you, that they were honored to be invited. So thank you. Our first student tonight, alphabetically, is not one of the students who's with us, and that's Samuel Busson. But I believe that David Chen is with us. David? Vivian Chen is also with us. Or not. I believe that Kimberly Dauber, Lily Dunk, and Elizabeth Hamlink are not with us tonight, but they are to be honored as well. Asim Jo. Beatrice Jin. Not with us tonight, but honored, are Julie Lang, Nathan Lindquist, and George Lowry. Next would be Bradley Ing. Grace Ing. Anushka Rao. Congratulations, Anushka. Arpan Rao. Congratulations, Arpan. Ashrita Rao. Thomas Rutter. Chris Serpico. Kevin Sue is not with us, but Alan Tang is. Chelsea Wang. Larry Wang. Nice chapeau, Larry. And Helen Wei. Our last two honorees I do not believe are with us. That would be Christina Yao and Charles Ziga. And Sebastian Wagner Carrena. It's always nice to have a mother helpfully pointing. So thank you. Thank you very much. That actually is Chelsea. That's Chelsea. Chelsea. But you have to pronounce it. Thank you.
I apologize if you'll just hold for a picture opportunity here. You can be Kevin and you can be Nathan. So much better.
Oh, Vivian.
Vivian. She passed the Wait.
Vivian, go get your certificate.
Go get your certificate.
Oh my goodness.
Grab one, we'll get you the right.
Let her through. Bring two. Let's hope they don't look too closely.
Very good.
Oh, really? Wait. So two Muppets are nothing. One says to the other. Alan. Just moves out here.
Alan.
The other one says, oh my God, a talking muffin.
Okay.
Okay. Let's go.
If you have a certificate that's not yours, we so
Keep it.
apologize. We will get you your corrected one.
I'm going to put this on ice stand so every single day.
Congratulations. 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 Well done.
Ready? Congratulations to those students and parents from Naperville North High School. At this time, I would like to introduce the National Merit semifinalists from Naperville Central High School. I'm not sure who's here and who's not here. I think most of them are here, so I'll just introduce names. We'll give them a round of applause, and then we'll find out whether they're here or not. First up, I'd like to congratulate and recognize Ziwei Ba. Congratulations. Next, I'd like to recognize and congratulate Girish Chandrasekhar. Next, I'd like to recognize and congratulate Ashley Flakus. Next, I'd like to recognize and congratulate Philip Hinch. Next, I would like to recognize and congratulate Rishi Kumar. I would like to recognize and congratulate Matthew LeBeau. I'd like to recognize and congratulate John Lee. I would like to recognize and congratulate Virginia Ling. I'd like to recognize and congratulate Rachel Liu. I'd like to recognize and congratulate Christina Mardilla. I'd like to recognize and congratulate Grace Orndorff. I would like to recognize and congratulate Cincy Plant. I'd like to recognize and congratulate Mark Sweeney. And last but not least, I would like to recognize and congratulate Emily Zen. And I think parents are free to step forward. You're welcome.
Yes. Can we do one funny one? Yeah, let's do a funny one. Okay, ready?
Oh, I'm so bad thinking of this.
Okay, are we doing it?
Girish, you're a party.
Not in my life, I'll be the only one.
Parents might stand get communicated by
Good.
There we go. My mouth is still going on.
Okay. Oh.
And because we can never have too much recognition in one night, I'm going to invite our Director of Community Relations, Julie Carlson, to come forward and join me in recognizing a number of individuals in a few different sites on their receipt of National Network of Partnership School Awards.
I was going to look at these.
That's fine.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. A lot of exciting good news here tonight. I'm very excited about that. I have the privilege of working very closely with a lot of leaders from across the district, from our schools, from district administration, from the Board of Education, and parents in the community. And we work on school, family, and community partnerships. And the people who are being recognized tonight are being recognized for having submitted award-winning, promising practices to the National Network of Partnership Schools. I'm going to read a little bit from the letter that we received from the National Network. The school district 203 is the winner of a district partnership award. This is the district's 13th annual partnership award. It's a remarkable accomplishment, noted here, earned even as leadership has changed. So I want to first recognize the core team for coming on up. They have submitted an activity called Tip Sheets for high schools. And this was something that we presented to the board back in February last year. Since then, the document has been translated into Spanish as well, and it was praised as an activity that is both effective as a brochure and easily readable by parents. So I'd like now to start by recognizing the members of the core team, and some of you are board members. So Mrs. Susan Price, if you'd join us, please. We do have to take a picture tonight. We do have to take a picture. Superintendent Dan Bridges. Assistant Superintendent for Secondary Education, Mr. Bob Ross. This one's for me. The Scott School Principal and my Principal Co-Chair, Mr. Nick Mazinski. Scott, right? Nick? Also on the core team, I'm not sure if she's here tonight, Katie Lynch, principal from Meadow Glens. Principal from Naperville North High School, Mr. Kevin Popst. Come on up, Kevin. Our principal from Jefferson Junior High School, Mrs. Nancy Voice. Representing Naperville Central High School, and actually the brains behind our tip sheet. Communication arts teacher, Mrs. Mary Wilkerson. And representing Washington Junior High School, Nanette Ah. And I didn't see Pam Dandridge here tonight, but she's one of our parent leaders. The parent co-chair from last year, Jessica Joswiak. Our parent co-chair this year, Mariella Romano from Prairie Elementary. Also from Naperville North, Carolyn Wenig. I know Carolyn's here. She's here.
Julie, they're in the hallway.
From Highlands Elementary, Ritu Ahuja. Brian Meyer couldn't join us tonight from Madison Junior High. And then a teacher from Naperville Central who translated our tip sheets into Spanish, Jenny Franta. And rounding out the core team, but also not with us tonight, is Yvonne Janvrin. So let's hear it for the core team.
Can we put you in two rows? We need an official picture to send into Hope you guys noticed the National Merit Scholar finalists didn't have any problems with it.
They're used to their parent pointing the camera at them.
You could be our parent tonight, Susan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Crotty.
I'm going to take several because we've got a lot of obstacles here we're working on. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone. Congratulations. So I think everyone heard enough from me. I'd like to now invite up the principals from the schools that are being recognized for winning promising partnership practices. And I'd like to start first with the interim principal from Highlands Elementary, Mrs. Cheryl Legan. Cheryl's going to introduce everybody.
Oh, how wonderful. And not here tonight is Susan Stuckey. And Kathy Ruiz. Julie Honeycutt. Not present tonight is the teacher, Connie Eilers. And another teacher, Stephanie Cohorn. And another teacher, Alita Vandenberg. One of our parents, Ritua Hujo. And Dee Dauber. Mimi Quinnell could not be with us tonight. And Arthi Ramalangan is here. And this team won for a mindful school, and at Highlands we have been working to infuse the habits of mind within our not only our school community but our parent community. And this was a program where students and parents came in at night. Parents were organized together to hear grade level presentations of the habits, while the students were organized into groups, and we had drama coaches from Kids Cabaret come in, help them organize a skit, and then the kids rejoined the parents and performed the skit where the parents had to guess which habit was being acted upon. So it was a great evening. Thank you.
Over this way? Do you want to be in the middle?
No, I'm always in the middle.
You're supposed to be in the middle. Am I supposed to look this way? All right, perfect. Great. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
And now I'd like to invite Principal Popst up to talk about the award-winning practices at Naperville North High School this year.
Actually, I recruited the right two people to talk about the practices for which we were given an award. I do need to say that this is the third year in a row our SFCP has garnered a National Network of Partnership Schools Award, and that's because we have a strong tradition of SFCP at Naperville North, and that's due to the parent leadership. And our parent chairs this year are the same two who were parent chairs last year, and they will explain to you what we won the award for and then introduce the other people who contributed to that. And that is Lori Wiley and Suzanne Green.
Thank you. So this award that we got was multidimensional. There were two parts to it. The first part involved our action team called Healthy Huskies, and it started actually with a lot of the SFCP parents going to a lot of the community forums and some of the local forums on the heroin use and the drug use in the community. And we decided, that we wanted to find a way to enlist more parents in the conversation. And so two things happened. With the administration, we developed a Healthy Huskies newsletter that came out monthly, much of which Kevin was very involved in. And we generated ideas, and he was the words behind a lot of our ideas. And it started with a couple of issues that involved drug use, but then it also went and talked about other healthy topics like healthy eating and healthy relationships. The other piece of that was a night that we had called What Would North Do?, where we looked at 6 scenarios that the school normally deals with in terms of drug and alcohol use. And the guidance department kind of presented the scenarios along with the resource officer and some of the folks integral in guidance. And the parents were given interactive clickers where they presented the scenario. They gave us 4 or 5 different choices as to, what would North do? How would North handle this? We got to, pick our ABCD. And then we talked about what actually would happen in that situation, given what the school's role is. So that was the Healthy Huskies project. And then the other project was something called Canine Companions. We now have a canine mentoring program that ruminated as a result of our action team, our welcoming committee, who gives tours at the school. The parents felt like students beyond just the tours needed a little bit more to transition into the North community, those who came from other districts, both parochial and out of the district. And there were also 2 students who were in a leadership camp one summer that were tasked with developing a program. So both that parent group and that student group partnered together and developed basically a mentoring program that now North students can apply to participate in, and we pair students who are new to the district and new to our school with students who are there to kind of help make the transition a little easier.
And we've also partnered as well with that piece with the school, and the school is now kind of the leadership of it through student activities, and we've now incorporated a teacher. So to us, that was what the whole SFCP, the school, the family, the community, all partnering together, all the pieces were in that piece of our award. We have the school piece, the parent piece, and the student piece, so that's why we were really excited about that.
Two of our staff members who took the Canine Companions part of the program and ran with it are the effervescent Jennifer Baumgartner, our Dean of Student Activities, and our ELL Director, Cindy Wood. Jessica Joswiak, who's already been introduced this evening, is a leader in our welcoming committee and our tour committee, and she plays a role in this as well. Jessica? Just shake your hands. And the 2 girls who were initiators of this, 2 class of 2013 student leaders, should be recognized even though they're in college, even as we speak. One is Grace Carballo, and the other is Krista Zelak, wonderful senior students who imagined this. So thank you to them.
Remember the instructions last night? Yeah. Instructions. No parents again. I know. Where are their happy parents? Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we have one more school that received a National Network of Partnership Schools Award for a promising practice, and that was Prairie Elementary School. Tracy Dvorak's here tonight, but so is our retired principal, Marianne Porter, who spearheaded the team that won this award. So I'd like to invite Marianne to come on up, talk a little bit about it with Tracy. and then they can introduce the people from their team who are responsible for the award. The event was a family literacy night, and it took place almost a year ago, so it was last October. And the theme was Under the Big Top, and the connection was to the school improvement plan to promote reading and writing. And there were a range of activities doing of various events. One of the ones that the partnership recognized was the progressive writing activity, but there was also reading, and there was physical activity, and the art, music, and PE teacher provided ideas. Great collaboration between staff and parents. I think we counted 150 students and over 100 parents attended that evening. And then lastly, it also coordinated with the Home and School Book Fair, so trying to get all avenues covered that evening. Oh, okay. Well, we'll do a little teamwork here, Tracy and I will. So Mariella Romano was one of the parents. Barb Bryan, another one of our parents. Elizabeth Gretz, another one of our SFCP parents. Casey Chitwood, another one of our parents. Christine Gerke, another one of our parents. And that's our team.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
One last thing I wanted to note. While the district did win an award this year, and so did 3 of our schools, the National Network is proud of the work that the district is doing on the whole with school, family, and community partnerships. And in 2013, the district and 8 of our schools, including Ann Reed, Highlands, Jefferson, Naperville North, Prairie, Rancho, and Steeple Run, are all included in the 2013 book of Promising Partnership Practices. This is the maximum number of activities that are permitted from one district. So Naperville maxed out with great activities to share with the rest of the nation. I want to thank our principal leaders, members of the core team, and all the parents who are involved in SFCP for the great work that they do on behalf of our students. Thank you.
Just have one last good news announcement, and don't mean to put our new CFO, Mr. Kaufman, on the spot, but on behalf of the board and the administration, congratulations on your recent marriage. We're glad to have you back. So.
Well, that was a wonderful evening of good news. It's great to see students and parents.
I do have one more. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go
We
ahead.
have to recognize 2 board members. We got so carried away. Congratulations to new board members, Donna Wanke and Kristen Fitzgerald, who have become IASB Leadership Academy members. Both board members achieved the award by completing at least 3 leadership workshops, including a required governance overview workshop. So congratulations.
Awesome. Okie doke, we love good news. So the next section of our agenda this evening is public comment. And I don't know if everyone has had a chance. If you'd like to speak, As a part of an individual, it'd be 3 minutes. A group is 5 minutes. And if you didn't get a chance to fill out one of these sheets, they're at the front door right as you come in the reception area. And please just either bring it up or wave your hand when I'll ask for you right at the end to make sure we haven't forgotten anyone. First on our agenda tonight, and I think this gentleman is representing a group. His name looks familiar to me. Dirk Price, representing the parents of Naperville North High School Girls Lacrosse. And Dirk, if I could ask you please to mention your name and address, please, for the record. And you have 5 minutes if you are indeed speaking for a group.
I am. Good evening, President Romberg and members. This?
Is it blue?
Okay, yes, it's blue. Good evening, President Romberg, members of the board. My name is Dirk Price. I live at 116 East 14th Avenue in Naperville. And it's my pleasure to be here tonight to speak on behalf of both the Naperville North and the Naperville Central girls lacrosse teams. I'm representing the parents of those student athletes. We've gotten together and talked. Also here tonight you'll be hearing from the captains of the Naperville North team, Carly Schisler and Taylor Archivar. You'll hear from our board, since we're now a club at the moment, you'll hear from our board president, Wayne Schisler. And for the Naperville Central girls, you'll hear from Liz Gaden. The room is full of players from both girls' teams and their parents because we are all united in one request. And that is we are asking you, District 203, to move girls lacrosse from its present club status to that of an officially recognized sport under the jurisdiction of the athletic departments. The lacrosse program has been in existence for 8 years. This spring will be its 9th season. And there is some urgency to our request. Previously, lacrosse was recognized by IHSA as an emerging sport. This summer, they removed that designation. And they issued a challenge, at least that's how the parents and the board members of the two clubs for the girls especially see it, that IHSA will sponsor a statewide tournament as soon as there are... Annie? Okay. As soon as there are 40 girls teams officially designated by their districts as sports. The number is 65 for the boys. They will then have a tournament and we will go forward. Now that's a surprising move by IHSA because it happened after you were already in your budget year, and we'll address that issue in a second. But that's the challenge. They intend to take a vote in December, possibly January, to take the count of the number of recognized teams and then determine whether there'll be a tournament. We are asking you to take the necessary action to include Naperville North and Naperville Central girls teams in that count. Peer schools that you always compare yourselves to in different things have already done so or are intending to do so. We know that they're on the agenda. Now, with that said, and we are here, it's not like we tried to jump the line. We have been working with our administrators to get to this point. We know that the principals, for example, of North and Central have sent you a letter supporting the request that lacrosse be made an official sport, a sanctioned sport. We've worked with our student activity supervisors, and we've worked with our athletic directors. Unfortunately, when you go to the policies of District 203, there's no official process for this to happen. So this is our attempt to complete the circle, bring our communication and our request to you so you know what we're trying to do. Let me be clear that we appreciate the hard work that we've had from our student activity supervisors and our athletic directors and the principals. They have been remarkably helpful in this whole process. But girls lacrosse straddles the world between clubs and sports. And in that straddle, there are all sorts of issues that arise that won't exist when lacrosse is made of sport. For example, in the handoff from the clubs to the athletics, lacrosse was not included in the teams for which athletic trainers were contracted. We got lucky when girls got hurt at games. We happened to be playing teams who did have trainers contracted for them. That's just one of those things that happens. As Mr. Conrad at Naperville North, he was able to help us finally get trainers contracted, but we ended up paying more, almost 25% more than the district paid for the same service. Similarly, we are now going through a coaching search. Naperville Central's girls team went through that same search 2 years ago. There is a world of difference between advertising for a coach in an athletic program at Naperville North or Naperville Central High School than there is for advertising for a parent and student-led volunteer activity club. And although Mr. Conrad has been very helpful, as has Dr. Baumgartner, in our efforts to get a coach, by definition for Mr. Conrad, it's his job description, it's a lower priority for us. He must attend to the sports first. While we have energetic and well-meaning parents like Wayne Schisler, who's devoted an incredible amount of time to learning about the game and about the student athletes, there is no way we are as qualified to determine the right kind of coaching match as it would be for a district with the proper educators, trained professionals who know what to look for. Now, that same slight shift in priority, that we can't by definition be Mr. Conrad's equal priority, underlies everything that happens. District 203 distinguishes between sports and clubs in a number of ways, everything from tassels to field and facility allocation. It's that distinction that's important. We love the priority basis for clubs because it brings all sorts of new club activities. People try things. But this activity is 9 years old and has overwhelming support among the kids and among the parents. Examples of where the priority shift happens. We come second in the second tier for scheduling, so 9:30 p.m. start times for our girls' games is not uncommon. Naperville North had a home game at Commissioners Park at 111th and 59. That's a home game for a club. That's inexcusable, I think, in a world-class district like 203. The reason we're in a coach's search is because of success stories like that occurred for District 203. Danielle Fiala, a Naperville North High School graduate, played lacrosse for the Huskies for 4 years, was recruited by North Central College to lead their team. She set all sorts of school records and was just hired to run a Division III program in Iowa. Our coach was hired away to run a Division III school here in Chicago. Central's coach was hired to run a Division III college program as well. It's exploding. It's a sport. It needs to be recognized as such. We know you have concerns about cost, but our understanding is that the principal's letter addressed that issue and said it's still achievable. The only request that I got from Principal Popst was to remind you that maybe if the district would give a couple more percentage points of the athletic fee to the high school athletic budgets, that might work as one way of solving it. There, Kevin, I've delivered the message that you asked me to deliver. What we have to offer to you is all of the equipment the clubs have already purchased, so you don't have to buy any new equipment. And we have the money for the coaches, because we are responsible to raise that and have. And the last thing, for the girls' perspective, is that we have very modest equipment needs. Other than the goaltenders, understandably, the girls really have very modest equipment needs. It's a very modest cost. Again, there's some urgency to our request, and we would ask that you take the action necessary so that when the vote occurs in December or January, these two schools are recognized as team sports. So with that, I will leave it to the next speakers, who are our team captains.
Thank you, Dirk. And if I can just remind, thank you. Thank you, Dirk. And if I can just remind everyone as you're speaking to try your best to keep to the 3 minutes for an individual or 5 minutes for a group, just in fairness to all speakers. So thank you so much. And next, I don't know if you're speaking together, Carly Schisler and Taylor Arctavan. Am I pronouncing that correct? Sorry.
We will be speaking together.
Okay, great. And again, if you can just both mention your names again and your addresses for the record. Thank you so much.
My name is Carly Schisler, and 839 Mount Vernon Court, Naperville.
Thank you.
Taylor Archivar, 4533 Shabona Lane in Lisle. To start off, we'd like to thank you, the president and the board members, for allowing us to have this opportunity to speak on behalf of the Naperville North girls lacrosse players. Every year we recruit a lot of girls at the freshman jamboree, and every year those girls continue to choose track over lacrosse because lacrosse is not a sport. Not to mention the soccer girls have lacrosse in the back of their mind if they don't make the cut and don't make the team. We are always second choice at North, we feel like, and of all my 3 years that I've played on the team for Naperville North, the most amount of subs we've had on the sidelines is 5 people, and that's not a lot. People seem to not be interested in girls lacrosse because we are not a sport, we are a club. We are aware that softball and baseball both receive not athletic lockers, but they receive lockups for their equipment during school, and that soccer and track receive athletic lockers because they are all sports. However, girls lacrosse does not get any sort of help with locking up our equipment when we could argue that we have plenty to carry around. All the players on both JV and varsity rely on seniors' cars and teachers' classrooms to store our equipment in, and this is inconvenient for everyone involved. After we change in the bathrooms, the girls have to carry all of our valuables to the fields and hope that they don't get ruined by any snow or rain that might come. At every practice, every team member, including Carly and myself, spend 2 hours, 6 days a week working our hardest on the field. However, as girls lacrosse players, we get less recognition at graduation due to the fact that we get club tassels rather than sport tassels. This is upsetting because we put the same amount of time and effort into every practice and everything we do for our club, and an issue for girls lacrosse seems to be the amount of recognition we receive for it due to the fact that we are not a sport. Having been a two-sport athlete for the past 2 years, I have put in hard work for both volleyball and lacrosse and have seen the noticeable difference in the amount of recognition. Both volleyball and lacrosse have been a very positive experience for me, and I wish my lacrosse team received the same amount of recognition for our accomplishments that my volleyball team did. The amount of support we get from faculty and peers is hugely lacking in numbers. It's hard to get people involved in our programs when we are not largely supported. This past summer, NNHS Girls Lacrosse had over 100 girls from all ages involved in our summer camp. We would like to keep the momentum of that going instead of losing them to other sports, such as track and soccer, because we are not a sport. Again, we thank you, the president and board members, and we appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think there might be a relative here. Wayne Schlissler, you here? I think so. Again, your name and address, please.
My name is Wayne Schlissler, 839 Mount Vernon Court, Naperville, Illinois. And I'd like to thank President and board members for allowing us to have a moment to speak. I do want to say that we are represented as well tonight by some members of the boys clubs from both schools as well. So it's not exclusively a girls thing, although we organize from a girls' perspective. 7, 8 years ago, my son picked up lacrosse as a sport that he wanted to get involved in. 6 years ago, he entered high school as a freshman, played lacrosse, was varsity lacrosse as a sophomore, and we were told, next year it'll be a sport, next year it'll be a sport. He graduated, he's now a sophomore in college. My daughter's a junior in high school. We're still trying to get lacrosse to be recognized as a sport. We've had a great relationship with our activities director and our athletic director. We really appreciate the use of the facilities. A lot of schools don't have that opportunity, but the recognition factor is big. Lacrosse is the fastest growing sport in the country. Division III programs are exploding. Division I programs are added every year. The Big Ten has just added lacrosse. Michigan added it as a Division I lacrosse sport. Division III schools all over the area. High school programs are exploding as well. Downers Grove and Plainfield are adding lacrosse this year. I think that Naperville should be on the leading edge of setting the example and make lacrosse a sport, and I would appreciate your consideration to that effect. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, Liz Gaden. And again, please mention your name and address, please.
My name is Liz Gaden, and I live at 340 Prairie Knoll Drive.
My name's Kelsey Pager, and I live at 432 Verbena Court.
I'm a senior at Naperville Central, and Central has always been very committed to girls' sports, which has resulted in many great experiences and memories for a lot of girls like me. Making lacrosse a school-sponsored sport would allow even more girls to experience the pride and excitement of representing Naperville Central. I'm going to start off by talking a little bit about myself. My experience with Naperville Central sports began when I was little, and my parents took me to watch Central girls basketball team win the state tournament with Candace Parker. This past winter, I had the opportunity to help cut down the nets as a member of the girls basketball team that won regional title. 2 years ago, Amanda Fox won the state cross-country title, and 2 weeks ago, I got to run in a varsity cross-country race as part of the number 6 ranked team in the state. These are memories I will never forget from me, but a sport that I've always loved the most is girls lacrosse. My freshman year, there were only 28 girls on the team, and I was able to make varsity just as like an extra girl. Last year, we had over 40 girls on the team, and this year we have 40 freshman girls that have expressed interest in participating. The sport is rapidly growing, and for many girls, it might be the only sport they get to participate in high school. Making lacrosse a school-sponsored sport would allow for a lot more girls to participate for financial reasons. I know my freshman year, I had a group of friends that all wanted to play, but they couldn't play because they couldn't all afford the $500 fee and equipment fees on top of that. It would allow a lot more girls to represent Naperville Central with pride in sports. A lot of girls want to do sports, but they get cut from teams like soccer, or they aren't good enough to run in track meets. And lacrosse is no cut, so everyone gets the opportunity to play and have fun. It helps teach girls important values like teamwork and respect and how to carry yourself with pride. I also have a lot of great memories from playing lacrosse at school, and I think it'd be great to give other girls the same experiences that I had. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kelsey. I joined lacrosse sophomore year, and freshman year I started off, and I did not make the basketball team, didn't make the soccer team. I did track for a little, but it just wasn't the same kind of team, all on the field kind of game that I was excited to participate for Naperville Central. So when sophomore year came, I found out through Liz that we have this great lacrosse team at our school, and so joining it was my best memory of Central, and my one regret is that I didn't join it freshman year.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Our next speaker is Brian Grabowski. Brian, if you could come up, please, and your name and address, please. Sure. I think the two blue lights should still be on.
Brian Grabowski, 1532 Tulane Drive in Naperville. I just had a comment to make about the pending future decision by the board for all-day kindergarten for the remaining 7 District 203 schools. We've been Naperville residents for 10 years, and we're aware that 7 of the 14 district schools in 203 are now in all-day kindergarten, effective this fall. As parents of a child about to enter kindergarten next fall, it would be unfair to us and other residents in a similar situation if you do not put through the remaining 7 schools through for next fall after you've already made the decision to put through the first 7. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, speakers. Thank you, parents. Thank you, students. We always love to hear from you. Next, we come to communications and student ambassador reports. They're watching the girls.
There we go. Okay. Well, we have quite the exciting week ahead of us. This next week is the Arctic Inferno Homecoming Week. We have plenty of cool activities, including our class homecoming carnival, class Olympic assembly, North's Got Talent, Mr. NHS, a student faculty basketball game. We also have a club laser tag tournament where an actual laser tag company is coming and blowing up an obstacle course in our gym, and it's going to be awesome. I already have my team set up and we're practicing this weekend. But we have a homecoming game, obviously this Friday, and then the dance on Saturday. As far as policy goes, we are working in a Phase 2 integrity policy. You might already know that we have worked out a kind of a Phase 1 integrity policy, just kind of figuring out what exactly our parameters are and what our definition is of cheating and what those consequences look like. This Phase 2 is kind of going to be a committee of both students and teachers are going to work together to figure out how we can change the culture and the whole mentality of teaching or of cheating, which would be very important as we kind of go through that. Also, bring your own device. The IT department at my school, at least, I'm pretty sure it's Central. I'm not, but yeah, at North at least, we have a huge expansionary program for over the summer of increasing the Wi-Fi for bring your own device, the network. We should now be able to have. Every student should be able to have 3 devices on the network at a time in the whole building. And so it's incredibly fast. It doesn't crash nearly as often, and it's a huge improvement as far as, it's pretty cool. Athletics, things are going great. I'd like to make just a little shout out to girls golf and cross country, because at North they've been doing amazing. And also to the Naperville North Robotics Club, who got a huge increase in membership, a whole 60 new members for that club, almost like more than doubling what they usually have, just because of the interest, and part of that I feel is because of their success that they've been having. So yeah, lots of good news at North.
All right, for Naperville Central, since I spoke with you guys last, school started and we have a great start to the year, welcoming our new students, especially getting our freshmen allocated to the new school. It's been a great transition, especially for me, seeing fellow mentors from, I was a mentor last year and for freshmen, and seeing my friends who are juniors now with their freshmen, it's just been a great transition. And just great feedback from that program. I'm glad to see the freshmen doing so well. We've had a great start to fall sports, golf and water polo and swimming, especially our football team, who's 3 now, which is a great start. We're real excited for them to continue playing. And this week as well, we're also having homecoming week, and we're having a marvelous night on Saturday as a superhero theme, and we're preparing this week with dress-up days and getting excited for the football game on Friday. It's just been very busy at Central. Besides that, we've had just great atmosphere at school, and it's been a real good time, and we're excited for the upcoming week and the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both. And written communication, 6.02, you're welcome to look at board docs and see the requests that are there, and I will turn it over to our superintendent for superintendent staff school report.
Here we have a number of reports to share with the Board of Education tonight. Our first report, we're going to turn over to our Chief Human Resources Officer, Carol Hetman, to describe to you an exciting partnership and program that we have that has brought us 2 wonderful teachers from Spain. So, Carol, if you'd like to talk about this program. Forgot to mention that Eulalia Valdez, our Director of Language Learning, is going to join Carol for this. Thank you.
Well, before we get too far, I'd like to make some introductions. So here with us this evening is Sarah Ladera Rodriguez, who is teaching 3rd grade dual language at BB. Sarah? And the principal at BB, Chuck Freund, is accompanying Sarah this evening.
I think we know him.
And the second teacher is Carmen Hidalgo Plaza, who is teaching kindergarten dual language at Steeple Run. And Principal Karen Courier. And we have a special guest this evening as well. Joining us is Jorge Bernet, who is the Education Advisor from the Spanish Ministry of Education. Jorge? Let's see. Okay. Back up one, please. Okay, that's good. So as part of the overall strategy for continually improving our student learning opportunities and engagement and our commitment to building a more diverse workforce, we'd like to share with you this evening information about a program in which our district has chosen to participate. So that's the Visiting Teachers from Spain program. Next slide, please. So what is the Visiting Teachers from Spain program? Well, it's a cultural exchange program which started in 1986 as a pilot experience in California and New York. Illinois joined the program in the 90s, in the late 90s. Today, there's over 25 states that are participating in the exchange program, and I believe that there's about 11 school districts in Illinois participating. The teachers who come to us from Spain become employees of the school district from 1 to 3 years under a J1 cultural exchange visa. Next slide, please. The objectives of the program are noted on the slide. For our district, this program provides our students with bilingual and multicultural education, which helps to prepare them for academic success. Next slide. A little bit about the teachers themselves. They're pre-screened by the Ministry of Education, by the ISBE, and they're interviewed and ultimately hired by the school district. All teachers are highly qualified and have at least 3 years of experience. Their English skills are assessed during the interview process. However, to be considered in the program, the teacher must be proficient and fluent in English. They come to the U.S. under a J-1 visitor's visa, and they obtain a temporary teaching license for up to 3 years, which is the duration of the J-1 visa. The ISB is actually the entity that sponsors the visa. The visiting teachers make a 1 to 3 year commitment to stay with us and to teach here, provided that, of course, the school district agrees to employ them for the 1 to 3 years. We employ these teachers in accordance with all our local regulations and policies. Their working status and salary are equivalent to those of their district co-workers, so they're paid according to their experience and their certification level. Next slide, please. The recruitment process was very new to us, very exciting. It starts by the school district expressing an interest to participate in the program, and it's typically done in January. And we connect in with Jorge, and basically the Ministry of Education is the one that screens all the applications. They select the pool of candidates in Spain for each of the school districts to interview, and that interviewing will happen in the spring. By March, the school district, we sign an agreement with the ISBE, and that's for reasons because they are the ones who are sponsoring the visa. The ISBE actually goes to Spain. They test the candidates' English proficiency. They're testing the candidates' reading, vocabulary, writing, their speaking skills, and all of this happens during the springtime. April, the school district has the opportunity to start the interviewing process. All school districts who want to participate, say for example in Illinois, we're all interviewing the same week at the same time with our own candidates. Depending upon the number of teachers that we express an interest in taking, there is an option if you take up to about 5 teachers. The Spanish Ministry of Education will actually sponsor the flight and the stay for the school district for the interviewing process. However, this year it was new for us, and we decided to only take 2 teachers. So our interviewing was done via Skype. Yeah. And next slide, please. We look at the program truly as a partnership among these 4 stakeholders: the ministry, the ISBE, the teacher, and the school district. Each has a role to play in ensuring the success of the program here. The Ministry of Education, they advertise the program. They do the initial screening for all the teacher applications. They organize the recruitment fair in Spain. They provide assistance and work continuously during the 3-year period with the teachers. They actually do an orientation. Once we select our teachers, they actually do the orientation process in Spain with the teachers before they even come here, before our orientation process here. The ISBE, they administer all the necessary English proficiency tests. They ensure that they're qualified to teach here. They narrow the list of candidates down according to the district's needs. They verify that these teachers will actually be able to get the visitor's visa, that they're qualified for that, and they sponsor the visa. And the teacher obviously ensures that they themselves meet all the program requirements. They're responsible for their own housing, transportation, and reporting. They connect in with the Ministry of Education here. And obviously the school district, what we do, we actually do all the interviewing, we actually hire, we provide the support as far as helping them secure their Social Security numbers,
for tax purposes. We set up mentors for both, and actually our two teachers not only have a district mentor, but they also have a personal mentor within the building, something additional that we wanted to provide for them. We signed the agreement with the ISBE, and we provide overall support whenever the teachers need that support. And the next slide. And when I speak about supporting the teachers, and this is connecting in with Jorge, this is really, we believe really in these different stages of the adjustment process. There's an initial transition stage, a settling down stage, and the development stage. And we all four stakeholders have to support during each of these stages. In that transition stage, from the hire date to the first day of school, there's so much. We began communications as soon as we knew our two teachers who were coming. Communications via email began. And it's sort of a joke with Sarah that she said she would look forward to every day when the emails would be coming from us. We'd make certain that they understood that the school calendar. They went through orientation in Madrid, the logistics upon arrival here in the U.S., getting that social security number, cell phones, apartment search, car dealers, and it really takes a village to make this happen. And then when you get to the settling down stage, it's ensuring that the mentors are in place and that's all operating. Opportunities for the teachers to observe other teachers. Preparing them for parent-teacher conferences. And then the giving back. And we'll share with you a little bit because our two teachers are amazing. They're already giving back. So we'll share with you a little bit, and they're becoming more involved in the school and in the community. The next slide, please. We'd like to share with you a little bit about the talents of Sarah and Carmen in their classrooms. Next slide, please. And can you play that? Oh. Oh. There we are. Oh.
Juan, lee la primera. No quiero bajar más. Muy bien, una frase. Una frase debe estar junto. Stacy. No quiero pensar en nada. Muy bien. Oscar. Hace demasiado calor para hacer algo. Para hacer algo hace demasiado calor. Clara. Lulu. Tori. Muy bien. ¿Y si ahora queremos pasar la página? ¿Ser? ¿Qué significa ser? Thirsty. Cuando necesitas beber alguna cosa.
And one more. It's from the computer back there. It's real hard to hear that. You'll hear the next one a little bit. And I'd like to just finally have a special thank you to two people. One is Betsy Kopnick, Betsy is ELL teacher at Meadow Glens. Betsy opened her home as a temporary housing to our 2 teachers. She became a true mentor and a friend to both teachers. She took them all around. She helped them. She showed them the city. And the other person is Cheryl Moore, who's the director of HR, who obviously became very involved at the beginning in terms of the hiring process, but also was the welcoming person at the airport and driving around for the apartments and things and furniture to help them set up. So shout out to say thank you to two people within our school district who helped them. Now, if you have any questions, and if Eulalia could answer any questions about the program or anything for you, we're here. Questions?
Yeah, go ahead. You go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Just wanted to say welcome to both of you. I had the opportunity when I was at Steeple Run the other day to see Carmen in her classroom, and it's really exciting. I think about my own daughter who's in 3rd grade, and they have pen pals from Arizona, and they're very excited about the pen pals from Arizona. But I'm thinking about the pen pals that might come from Spain in Spanish and how exciting that will be for the students. And it sounds like there's just some really great cultural opportunities that we're going to have for the learning for those students. I'm excited for all those students. So welcome.
And clearly you are very excited about the program. That's lovely to see, Carol. So it's wonderful to have everybody here. It's a very exciting opportunity. Thank you for arranging it, everybody and staff, and it's very exciting.
I guess my question is there a reciprocal agreement that we could have for our students? I know our students get the opportunity usually in the college years, but some private organizations do it in high school. Is that something you would consider, Carol? I won't ask you to answer that now, but how fabulous for some of our teachers that might want to study abroad, teach abroad. And secondly, I was drawn during these video clips. I was sitting close enough to see it for Sarah and Carmen, how beautiful your classrooms were and how much work and how much detail was all over the classroom, as if you have been teaching here for years and years. So congratulations. We're thrilled to have you. Thank you.
And if I may just address the board, I haven't had the opportunity to thank you, but I am thrilled to be here and honored to be a member of the team and to contribute to all the wonderful work that's being done in the district. So thank you.
And we're thrilled to have you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, 6.05 is Administrator and Teacher Salary and Benefits Report. By Illinois School Code, each school board shall report to the State Board of Education on or before October 1st of each year base salary and benefits of district superintendent, all administrators, and teachers employed by the school district. So prior to this annual reporting to the State Board of Education, the information must be presented to the Board of Education at a regular school board meeting, which is what we're doing for you today. So it's available in your backup material. This is for 2012-2013 administrator and teacher salaries. If you have any questions, we can address those. Okay, 6.06, I'm going to invite, I believe, Kitty Ryan, our Assistant Superintendent of Elementary Education, and Maureen Dvorak, our Supervisor of Student Services, up to the School Services, up to the podium to provide you, the Board of Education, and our community with an overview and a review of the 2013 school year centralized enrollment process. So, Ms. Ryan, I'll turn it to you.
Thank you, Mr. Bridges. We're very pleased tonight. Let me get my microphone adjusted. We're very pleased tonight to update you on centralized enrollment. Tonight we'd like to give you a little bit of background, talk with you about the current functions of that office, and then some targets that we have for improvement. I am joined by Maureen Dvorak, who is our manager, and she'll interject or correct me when I misstep, I'm quite sure. Before we moved to centralized enrollment, just as background information, families went to each school where they were going to enroll a child and individually enrolled a child. So a family with 3 students at 3 different levels went to 3 different schools. That had some positive aspects to it, but it also had some issues, and those were sort of uncovered when we got ready to transfer from the school MAC system that we were using for student information systems to the current one, our current Infinite Campus product, which we use now. And as we got ready to do that transition, we actually identified several areas where we could improve the enrollment process for our families and for our schools. Specifically, and I'm going to ask for the next slide. Thank you. Specifically, we were interested in improving customer service for our families, making sure that data entry was accurate and consistent, making sure that residency verification was uniform across for all people enrolling students, and also we wanted to standardize the process for updating residency when a family moves to a new address within our district or when a lease expires. Next slide. So we did, in fact, open a centralized enrollment office in 2011, and that office is currently staffed by our manager, Maureen Dvorak, and 2 enrollment secretaries, Gloria Gamboa and Lisa Kapasek. We also have part-time staff added to those individuals during our peak summer weeks. We have regular office hours for centralized enrollment. However, there are many times when Maureen is here very early in the morning or late into the evening, enrolling families who just cannot make those hours due to work or whatever the circumstances might be. It's also good to note that Gloria Gamboa serves as our in-house translator, and so she's available for translating into Spanish for families enrolling students, as well as taking care of on-the-spot documents that need to be translated to Spanish. Through this process, and I'm going to ask for the next slide, please. Thank you. Through this process, we have identified benefits to families, and one of them certainly is that efficient and consistent service. It's also that central location, so that rather than traveling from school to enroll students, you can come to one location. We have assistance for families who do not speak English, specifically right now for Spanish-speaking families. Also, accurate identification of school assignment is important. You might think that people would know automatically what school their children will attend. That's not always the case. Prompt identification of children who need special services, such as ELL or special education, is convenient here. And also those year-round flexible office hours and personal assistance, as well as next-day enrollment in most cases, once residency is verified. So once we know that, in fact, that family is entitled to enroll a student, we can usually get that child, unless it's high school, because we have to do some scheduling the next day. We found some benefits to the district as well, and I'm going to ask for the next slide. We're going to ask for that next slide. There we go. Again, that improved accuracy of census data is very, very important. This summer we got daily updates of enrollment numbers, which helps us to know where our resources are most needed. Improved efficiencies for residency investigations. There are times when we need to vigorously investigate a residency claim, and so that allows us to go right from the enrollment to that investigation as needed. It also serves us to know which of our students will need services, and then we have a direct connection here to our homeless liaison. And so it's good to know that, as a matter of fact, this year we have 127 students currently who are identified as needing homeless services. And so that direct connection to that homeless liaison is extremely important. Next slide. This year, and this summer, Maureen and her stalwart crew enrolled 1,876 students, okay? And also updated residency for families who either moved or who had a lease that expired. And it's good to note that as a result of those residency verifications, some families chose not to go forward with that process, and so several withdrew from the residency verification process, and in fact withdrew their students from the district. And we're going to go to our next slide. And every year, as Maureen will attest, we learn a lot about what we can do to improve our service for families and also our service for schools. One of the things that we learn each year is how important that flexible service model is, or rather staffing model is. We need to have part-time people ready to come in and help out at our very busiest times. Again, that influx of families at that very same time requires the use of the very spot we're sitting in. And so how do we... Did I turn my mic off? Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. I was getting so excited about that we're actually in the site of centralized enrollment. This is the very site where this happens, and so we have to figure out, well, where's everybody else going to go while we're using these rooms? Complicated enrollments require longer wait times for some families, and also we need additional resources for translations, not just for Spanish. And so we've identified several targets for improvements for next year or throughout this school year, and we're going to go ahead and ask for that next slide. And here they are. We're going to recruit and train additional part-time staff to ensure adequate assistance, and Maureen does a great job of looking for secretaries in our buildings and other people who would be willing to come in during those peak summer weeks and work with us. We want to make sure that we've got a rolling process for tracking expired leases so that we're not trying to get all of those residency updates occurring at the very time when we're our busiest. We're going to be looking for alternate space for PSAC functions in the weeks prior to the start of school. And also look at our workflow for those complicated enrollments. How can we identify potential efficiencies there and reduce wait time for families and get our children into school as quickly as possible? As we get towards the first days of school, Maureen and her staff works tirelessly, and I mean tirelessly, to make sure that students are in school as quickly as possible. And also we're going to be investigating some translation supports that we can use for languages other than Spanish. Language Line is something we're looking at, and are there other online resources that we might be able to use? So those are our targets. I went through that very quickly. Could Maureen and I answer any questions for you this evening? Great. Okay.
Great. Thank you very much.
Before you escape, though, just
yes.
With that report also in the board docs we provided for you, updated enrollment numbers to reflect the actual projection, the first day enrollment, actual 6-day, actual August, the end of the month. Then we also included, which was added this morning for you, at a request of one board member, to include the after Labor Day, and we actually have for you up to last Friday the enrollment numbers, and you can see that for the most part, we're very close to projections overall on our enrollments. We feel good about the projections, and we did not see as much overall fluctuation in enrollment from actual first day and 6th day into the after Labor Day as we may occasionally see. So we're pretty solid with our numbers. If you have any questions about that, we'll try to address those.
Michael.
I did have a question, and it brought up, it reminded me of an article I read last week in Chicago Tribune about Chicago Public Schools and the way they do their internal funding. I don't know if you saw that article. They talked about using the 10th day numbers. And I thought there was some confusion last meeting as far as what numbers you used for state and federal funding. Now, this article specifically said day 20. Is that something that is different? I mean, because I'm just curious. I know Brad wasn't here, so that was...
I'm going to look to Brad for help with that.
Okay, well, the major funding is distributed in the general state aid,
right,
and that's actually based on average daily attendance.
Right, it's a rolling formula, right?
Right, rolling formula, and it's your best 3 months. So there's no particular specific day, it's the 3-month average.
I think they are referring to, and maybe that's what it is, they seem to be referring to Title X funding because they said for poor students.
Okay. I'm not familiar with that particularly. They might be looking at some of their free or reduced counts or something like that. And I'm not.
We don't have that information readily available. Okay. Because I know that was a question. Because I looked up the general state aid and I knew that was I found out it was a rolling number, so the day 6 didn't matter. And then when I read this article, I go, oh well, day 20, and it says for state and federal funding for, I think they actually use the word poor students, but I was just curious. Here it is. State and federal funding based on the number of poor students in the school will continue to be based on the 20th day enrollment numbers, officials said. So just Since it came up last time, I thought maybe we can get some.
We look at those numbers and we look at the 6th day and also the last day in September as well to verify how on target were we with projections. From our office, more than state funding, although I know that's extremely important. But what we're looking is, did we call the numbers right in terms of how we staff buildings?
And certainly we don't get as much of that Title X funding as CPS.
And your specific question, Mike, I see Brad making note of that, and so we'll make sure.
No, thank you.
Susan.
I just want to thank you and your staff. I work with somebody who moved within the district, and she felt that if customer service was like that everywhere, the world would be a better place. So
very good.
Nice.
I will pass that on and share it with all of our part-timers who really helped us out this
Great.
week,
That's
as well
awesome.
as Lisa and Gloria. Thank you.
You know, and truly you are, you're the first face of many people that are in the district. And that's just so important. So any other questions?
I do. I just want to make a comment. I know that this is a process that we have beefed up and centralized for a lot of reasons, and one of them is that our community is very sensitive to the idea that there might be people going to school here who don't belong here, and I know there's always frequently rumors about them, and we've consistently found that whatever rumors are out there, the reality is much less. And we are but this is something that people are very concerned about. They pay taxes and they want to ensure that the people and students who are in our schools belong in our schools.
Right.
And that we are very on top of that.
And we are. As a matter of fact, Maureen is going to be reviewing with Bob Ross and myself tomorrow morning some questions that we have about some particular enrollments, and Maureen is vigilant on that. And we also encourage our schools, when a family comes in and reports, or a parent comes in and reports they have a concern about another family in residency, we encourage them to get a hold of us immediately. And we also invite people that have those concerns to let us know about them. They need to let us know the name and the address and the reason that they have a concern.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okey-doke. Any other questions? That was the centralized enrollment update, or any other questions on the enrollment? Those numbers were added. The September 13th numbers are in board docs, if anyone would like to look at those. And next,
Item 6.07, Annual List of Resources. Board of Education Policy 6:210, Instructional Materials, indicates a list of textbooks and instructional materials used by the school district shall be revised and reviewed annually by administrators under the superintendent's direction, made available to the Board of Education and for review. That's what we have provided for you this evening. If you have any questions about any of the textbooks or resources that are being used, Chief Academic Officer Dr. Hester or I could answer those for you. And then, under 6.08, tonight we intend to just continue our conversation with the Board of Education regarding proposed construction for Steeple Run. A little bit of history again. If you recall, the Board of Education had previously indicated an okay to move forward with planning for the addition of a multi-purpose room or gymnasium at Steeple Run Elementary School. Earlier this fall, we came back and asked the Board of Education to consider an increase in scope for the work at Steeple Run, to include also some renovation of work around the office area, addition of a new office space, and some site work. The intent of that was to, in addition to the multi-purpose room, provide opportunities for small group instructional spaces that are currently being housed in the Learning Resource Center, create additional small office spaces for specialists and small groups, and to allow the LRC to act as more of a flexible learning space in that area. There were a couple of questions and things that board members had raised last time, and we wanted to make sure we responded to those. Again, our purpose tonight is to ensure you have all of the information that you need before we ask for any decision to be made. One was in terms of the relation of the work and the history of the work, and where the sense of the broader scope came from. The conversation really revolved around the addition at Steeple Run over the past couple of years, even prior to my term as a superintendency, and looking at our four-section school and need for the additional either multi-purpose room or gymnasium space, looking at future programming, potential student enrollment projections, and a need at that school to have the additional space. And then when we were on site looking at that space, The work with the principal identified some other building needs located near the area to where the multi-purpose room is going to be added. And so to get a little bit of context on that, on the work, I've done a little bit of a review of previous work and previous plans that have been laid out, and went back to the master facility planning that had been done in 2007, where in phase 3, current phase that we're in for that plan, it did call out for the addition of a multi-purpose room or gym, but then also went back even further to look at some of the documents back in 2005, which called out some additional work at other areas or highlights of specific needs, which highlighted things like improved traffic flow, flexible spaces for group instruction, and then also office space to be renovated and relocated. So I feel it's really consistent with previous plans and moving forward and looking at current and future programmatic needs. Another question that was raised was getting some clarity on estimates of what the impact would be on the cost of the additional scope. So I know our CFO, Brad Kaufman, has some information that he's going to distribute to the Board of Education, and then he can speak to that.
Dan, can you talk about that we're not looking for a vote, we're not looking for a sense?
Yeah, again, just clarifying right now. Right now, this is conversation, making sure that the Board of Education has the information it needs. We're not asking for any action at this time.
Thank you.
Brad, if there's anything you want to speak to on the sheet, or it's pretty straightforward.
Questions, or just having it circulated there now. So this was prepared by the district's architects. It breaks down the cost between the two different options, and if you had questions, I'd be glad to address those.
So just as terms of reminder, option 1, I know this is for your first time seeing it. So option 1 is the multi-purpose room addition, and then option 2 is multi-purpose room plus main office addition.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Susan. I'm too busy reading about that.
Putting aside which school this is that we're looking to upgrade, could you explain, because I served on the facilities committee, I served on finding the architects, the community, so kind of all through the phases. And when we ended last time, we kind of ended, we looked at phase 1 and at tier 2 and tier 3. And, I know that you're addressing kind of the facilities coming up in future focus. Could you maybe paint a picture of how this fits into our longer term facilities planning?
Our intent, beginning on Wednesday, this week, and Thursday, is to initiate updated facility planning in the district through our future focus sessions. We'll be working with the community to establish priorities based on information that's already been gathered through Future Focus about interest from the community when they look at our facilities. So our intent then is to begin to identify the priorities for updating facility planning district-wide, and so that's really kind of where it fits in right now. This really grew out of the previous plan. And again, as I said, identified in phase 3 was the additional large space at this site, and the additional work, although not specifically called out in terms of phase 3, was recognized as need back in 2005. When we look at some of the community priorities that have already been identified through Future Focus, I believe the recommendation for the additional space and the additional scope of work is in line with what's identified as potential priorities, dealing with flexible learning spaces, ensuring that there's safe access in and out of our buildings. There's a number of things that I feel are already aligned with future work moving forward. But this recommendation comes really based off of completing the previous facility plan.
So I pulled up the old facilities plan to take a look, and I sent you what I was going to be looking at before on page 26, I believe.
27.
Okay, so on the online one. And you're right, page 27. And, I know things change over time, and some of the things that we considered or looked at, it didn't say the same thing to me. And, is this the last thing on that list before we move forward? I mean, I'm just curious, priority-wise, how just School A compares to School B when you were prioritizing things. I mean, we've talked about, the portables at Naperville North.
Yeah.
I know you weren't here.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's in terms of when we look at that phase 3, when I look at that column, so this conversation has been going on, so I can't speak to historically, but some of what we look at is programmatic needs and capacity within the buildings. So Elmwood, for example, that's in place. We've identified Elmwood. Prairie, it's in place. Steeple Run also in place because we project those and see those as 4-section schools. We look at a 5-year enrollment projection of Steeple Run of being approximately 600. Some of the other schools we've looked at, I remember through some of the conversation in previous years, has been function better as 3-section elementary schools. That's why the Elmwood, Prairie, and Steeple Run were rated as priorities, because they were seen through projections as looking at being consistently more of a 4-section school.
So are all the things in phase 2 done? All the permanent walls in Maplebrook, Scott, and Steeple Run, and the LRC remodeled and classrooms remodeled at BB?
Looking at that, not all of them are done. And again, going back to 2010, I can't speak to what decisions were made at that time to do that.
So not picking on a school, because it's really, I mean, this could say Exhibit A rather than a school name. How are you going to prioritize that against the other needs long-term in our district?
Again, the recommendation on doing the multipurpose room, again, has come back over 3 years, and we're doing that based on what we predict to be the enrollment and the projected enrollment for that school being a 4-section school, compared to some of the others where we haven't recommended moving forward, we see as 3-section schools.
Okay.
Yeah, just to make sure I'm hearing this correctly and the way I understand it, we've been talking about Steeple Run, right after the other 2 schools were adding multipurpose rooms or gyms to. And it was always in the same conversation. I think as a board we were, always unanimous. There may have been one negative vote on some of this going forward. But, it was never a question in my mind that Steeple Run was going to get a multipurpose room. And if that was a question, then I think I missed something. I think the question before, not that your question is invalid, what are we going to do in the future, but the question before us now is, the board has said, we're going to add a multipurpose room in Steeple Run. Costs $1.9 million. Do we want to spend $500,000 more to make the building more usable for the long term? Since we already have all the construction equipment there, is that a good investment? I think that's the question we got to ask. Not that the other conversation is bad, but that's the question before us right now. But that's just my take on it. Looking at this, Craig warned us, Craig Sepka, who I saw in the back of the room, that site improvements were a lot, and when you look at either one, they're either 25 or 20% of the budget. So that's certainly a higher percentage than we're used to. But since a lot of that, I would assume, is safe traffic flow and safety, and the other big portion, I would assume, I don't know if Brad's up to speed on this, but the other portion I assume is some water-related issues which were brought up before.
That's correct.
And that would be very expensive also.
That's correct.
So the question in my mind becomes, is the $500,000 worth it?
Yeah, go ahead. I'd only caution and remind the board that these are estimates that are based off of square footage estimates. So,
absolutely.
Yep. Okay.
I guess so. In line with that, when I looked at the chart or the schematic last month, the 2 things that I'm still hung up on are, the slide, maybe it was a poor choice of word, allowing the LRC to move back to traditional stuff, and then pretty much all the educators I heard said, well, it's not really the old tradition. It's, we're using it as multi-purpose learning. And I got to thinking over the last 2 weeks, my question would be, as we're doing this, shouldn't we redesign that function to fill that need, just as we're building small learning spaces, instead of having, and this is just a wide open question, since we're going to have the people there, would it make sense to have this as more targeted towards those group learning sessions and stuff that your administrator said are the real uses of the LRCs now. I still am afraid we're building our schools to the past instead of the future. And whether it be an elementary school, a middle school, or a high school, libraries have changed a lot. And even in 10 years, I think I mentioned this 2 weeks ago, even in 10 years, we don't have banks of computers anymore, with classes coming in all at once to use them. So I hope that's part of this process. But, I saw that one diagram. I'm all for efficiency. I'm all for making Steeple Run an effective school. So I hope that we get maybe a little more clarity and color on what those spaces will look like, at least for me.
More questions? Kristen?
I think I had the opportunity to go over to Steeple Run and see a little bit of what we're talking about here in terms of the multipurpose room and the flexible learning spaces. And there's no question that it would be an improvement to the school. I think I had a similar question to Susan's in terms of the extra of it, not the multipurpose, but going forward and adding the addition. We're about to enter into this dialogue with our community about, their priorities and what is most important to them in terms of updating security and updating technology and those kinds of things. And my question is really, are we potentially looking at this a little bit too soon? Should we, get some of that feedback and then we can weigh that and say, okay, this is what our community is saying. This is where we need to, expand and, add here. So that was really my main question is it maybe a little bit premature given that we're starting that dialogue in 2 days, going forward?
Right. I'll simply just kind of indicate why we chose to do it during this timeline. And it goes back to some of the comments that Mr. Yench was making is that, from our perspective administratively, we weren't second guessing or making any changing decision or recommendation regarding multipurpose room. We believed that had been part of the conversation and that we were moving forward with it. What made sense to us is that when we looked at the location of where the multipurpose room would be and the additional work that was identified as potential work, that again had been something that had been talked about over time, and my assumption is that it may be something that's going to be talked about in this upcoming process, that it made sense to do it now because of the potential volume of savings that we would have by not needing to mobilize new construction again. That because the location of where the work would be and having construction and contractors on site would come at a better economy of scale while we're already doing that work. So that's why I understand your point, but because I believe that the multipurpose room was already something we were moving forward with. The question was, can we expand the scope beyond that?
Okay, so I love the numbers, but I have a question because I know that the difference between the two is the approximately $500,000, but do we have the numbers of if we were to wait in light of, what Christian's saying? I know that it's going to be a difference in money, but do we know what the difference would be? Or could we get that before we make a decision? I know I didn't, yeah.
I don't know if we could guess, but we can look into that.
Okay.
Can I clarify? You mean the difference between doing that and then coming back and doing the other construction later?
Yes.
So the challenge with that, I think, certainly that's a valid number, is that you have to weigh as well the costs on community. So you've got construction, they go away and they come back to restart. And, I'm sure they could give you a sense, but you lose the context of what it means to have construction to leave and then to come back and do something else. And are they going to build it? I'm sure that construction is dependent on tearing down a wall that they might not tear down, and now they're going to tear down that wall, or they would, I think that becomes a little bit more complex. And in regard to talking to the community, I think the challenge in talking to our community about schools is that you tend to engage people on a school-by-school basis, so it becomes to some extent a popularity contest. We think our school should have construction. We think we deserve it. Call the school district, send an email to support that it should be school A that gets the construction versus school B. So the question is, again, about priorities, which I think is what the conversation that Future Focus is. Future Focus is not asking which school should we do construction in, but rather what should the priority, what is the value of construction, what is any improvements that we do to our schools, any facility work that we do, what is its value in our education, what do we want to accomplish with it? So, I mean, and community input is a data point among a lot of data points that we consider. It is an important one, just as cost is an important one, just as timing is an important one, just as impact on communities is an important one. It is but just to repeat myself again, the challenge with talking about specific schools is it's very easy to turn that into a popularity contest. And I think that we'd want to avoid that kind of thing, which can get ugly. And
it just depends on who's coming out and who's spearheading it. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Excuse me 1 second, Kristen. I saw it.
Yeah, I agree. The cost of the community is not in the number, but I just think that we keep talking about a savings. It would be nice to have a dollar amount so that we understand the savings that I just think that will make it clearer for a decision to be made.
Your point is, if we did this as a standalone project, what would the savings be of doing it now? So I don't know that we've thought about it in that or I haven't heard those numbers. I'm
Brad,
sorry,
Brad, is that something you think we could get an estimate on? Okay.
I just think that it would help us to understand that, like, if it's a huge difference, then of course we're going to weigh this a little heavier now.
Right. I appreciate that.
And to be clear, I wasn't suggesting that we not go forward. It was more a question of, do we have the time in making our decision that we could consider some additional feedback? If we hear from our community, not that Siebel Run is our number one priority, which I don't expect to hear, but more if we hear the broad general themes of, okay, it's most important to us that we have flexible learning spaces, or that we have updated technology in our learning spaces that would relate to the LRC question. That's more what I'm looking at. I'm not looking at a popularity contest. I agree that's difficult, nor am I saying that we should go back in a year. I'm just wondering if we might have a little bit more time to say, okay, we had a little bit of time for feedback. It does confirm what we thought, and therefore, let's go forward. That kind of thing.
Well, I do remember sitting on some of these facility committees years ago, and the thing that is the most troubling to me in deferring this is really not the multipurpose room or the office space, but it's the bus and the cars. And I know what happens in these situations. It's a very problematic situation, how the buses and the cars and the kids are walking all over. I know, as a board member, I spent hours and hours when we did our 2-bys at Mill Street, because Mill Street had the exact same problem. And I remember the conversations years ago, well, we're going to do that when we do the multi-purpose room. So it's a little bit, I want to make sure we're putting this on delay for the appropriate reasons. And I echo what Mike said. The fact that, we can look at anything on an agenda and say, oh, well, let's rethink that now. This ship moves slowly, and we have to stay on course. These were programmatic reasons. This was suggested, and it bubbled up, and we approved this. If we have a problem with the scope difference, and I guess I'm echoing what Donna's saying, we can look at that number. What I don't want to do is each time we have a community involvement piece come in, kind of stop, and it's great to listen, but that's not going to change the programmatic nature that is needed in this particular building with this number of kids. I went there. This is the school that has 36 languages spoken. They desperately need this space. They're in the hallways. I don't like the bus, the safety. I'm sure it's not efficient to do all the site work and then say, I'll come back later and do a multi-purpose room and I'll come back. So I want to just be respectful of everyone's opinion. I think everyone's been heard, and I think we need to, the 7 of us have to give some direction to our superintendent now. We can't just sit on this for a month. Are there some things, what concretely do we need to hear as a board to move this forward? Or are we saying you can't move forward? So I'm all ears. Mr. Field, Michael.
3 things.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to keep up with all you guys. First of all, on the with the cost issue that Donna brought up, I do remember one thing that was brought up by Craig was that, and I guess this could be baked into the number, but remember that if you went back later, you'd actually have to tear down some of the new construction So I think she alluded to it. I just want to make sure that was clear. Number two, on the last question you asked, what do I personally need? I would feel, I want the school to be very functional. I remember many years ago there was a school on the north side where one of the complaints was there's kids in the hallway. And we poured a lot of money into Mill Street, and that's the same problem Steeple Run has. So I think consistency is another thing we want to look at. The thing I was going to say is I would love to see, and maybe this is part of the planning project, some really thoughtful work go into flexible learning spaces and not get stuck on calling it an LRC, and really optimize that
That's
space.
exactly how we're looking at it, as flexible learning space. Now, it's designated or called LRC because of its proximity, but the intent is it's not a fixed place destination. We talked about that last time. Flexible learning space that could be used for multiple purposes.
And the last part was the timeline. I'm pretty sure that we have to make a decision in October if we're going to get the bulk of this work done next summer.
Right. In terms of, just so I can speak to that a little bit, where we're at with timeline right now, if the board were to give a go-ahead, let's just say now, then we would be looking at getting prepared for you bringing back to you a bid in January, I believe, and that we would begin work as soon as we could in March. The likelihood substantial completion probably early September already. Just like a lot of our projects already, there would be some carryover into the school year. So the longer we delay this, the more we would be pushing into the school year. So the preference would be, as I support Mr. Yench, that if we could get to the information, the questions that you have that are outstanding, so that our October 7th board meeting, we could get a spirit of the Board of Education at the latest, then we can get to work on it.
Right, and again, the sense of the board and what Dan is looking for October 7th is that we would be agreeable as a board, or the majority of the board would be agreeable to go along with the design plan for the increased scope. It makes no sense to do two design plans. It's just too expensive. So I think if everyone, Donna, let me entertain your question, but that's what I'm going to ask you to be thinking about in the next minute here. Would you be in a position, if you need to visit the school, visit the school? Karen can articulate what this space looks like very effectively. I was there on the first day of school, and I saw everybody sitting in hallways and doing things. So anyhow.
First, I've been there as well, and I truly believe that it is needed. I'm just trying to make sure that we're looking at the detail of the numbers. Do we know, I just want to make sure I understand what the renovation numbers, because we just got this now. The renovation numbers, does that include the renovation to the office space so that it's usable space for the things that are in the LRC that will be moving to the office space? Because I know we're talking about new additional space for the office, but the current office
in
space.
option 2, yes.
Yes, it's repurposed.
Okay, it's repurposed as well. Okay, thank you.
I just think in any school that we improve, we need to do the best job that we can.
Absolutely.
And so for me, once you decide this is what we should do, option 2, and to be able to make more usable space for student, staff, and the community just makes the most sense.
Absolutely.
That's not a problem. I don't have a problem with that. I just had a problem with the kind of where it fit in the overall scope of what we do and how we do it.
No, and I'm hoping that this frame of reference of everybody going back and looking at some old material, this is not something new, but nonetheless, we can identify things in past plans that no longer make sense right now. This is just something that was identified, has consistently been identified, and I don't want to, I've said.
Okay. So I think we've been talking about this for a while, and my preference is to see option 2 go forward. But before we do that, I want the savings that Donna was talking about. So it's a nebulous study, and the reason I say that is you could, sure enough, you can quantify what you're going to take down to attach the addition. The problem is you don't know at what point in time you're going to do the work. It could be 2 years from now or 3 years from now. So the real savings that might be generated by doing it now, the new work that you would take down are quantifiable, but the costs of the future are not that quantifiable. So if you're going to do the estimate on that, good estimating practice would say, well, you're probably not going to do it to about 2 or 3 years out into the future. So you'd escalate that number, so there's some savings in there that could be somewhat artificial. Having said that, I did go back through Dan and ask for this breakdown that we have here in front of us, and I wanted for very specific reasons so that we could see that in the main office addition, we're adding like $260,000 to the overall project. And the renovation slightly goes up because you got some interior work to do that. The numbers below the line, the indirect construction costs, contingencies, and permits and so forth, those all feed up by the direct costs up above. So the real cost is about $300,000 that's being added to the overall program estimate for the scope of work. The contingencies and so forth, when the bids come in, will be adjusted to reflect the actual cost of the work, as will White's fees and so forth. So you're looking at making somewhere around a $300,000 decision on the actual scope of the work, and the rest of it is more controllable below the line after the numbers come back. But I think the right thing to do, both for the school, to give them the space that they need, allow us to do the flexibility things in the LRC by getting some of the programs in there that can be better served somewhere else, is to go with option 2, and that would be something I would support.
I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're saying. So we've got a project total of $2.4 million, and you're saying it's actually $300,000?
No. I'm saying the additional scope.
Oh, okay. Okay.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
I see.
That'd be quite the bargain.
I'll have some of that.
It's late. My
And I
blood
would
sugar's
not want for work if I could make that
right,
happen.
Right. So, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Thank you for putting this together. This is super helpful. And the numbers have changed a little bit from the beginning, and it is less. I mean, originally when we first started talking about it, there was something about 700,000. Now it's down to 500, which is great.
Right. I just want to be clear. White cooperated with a request that I had based on their estimate to break it down. And I thought it'd be a little bit more digestible.
And I went back to the notes too. When Craig was here, he said it was a rough estimate. And a rough estimate, an estimate, every stage there's another level of estimate. So I just want to be clear that everybody understands that's exactly what it was. So.
And it continues to be an estimate.
Exactly. So I'm back to square one, which is my role here. What additional, Michael?
Based on Dan's assurances that they would be innovative and forward-looking in their redesign of the opened up space, I would also support option 2, and whether we have enough, it's not votes, but enough sense of the board this week or October 7th, I'm fine with either one. I think they could probably make it work, but I'll also come on board as supporting option 2.
Okay. So I guess the question would be, number one, if you have a sense right now, great. If you don't, I would be looking for that October 7th. But at a minimum, we need to know what questions that are still there. I think Terry was trying to address Donna's, that a number could be had, if I'm understanding this. It could be had, but it's probably not something that's a very useful number. So, Donna?
I support option 2 as well, because I've been in Steeple Run and I know how much of a problem it is. I was trying to address a concern to maybe help other people.
Yeah, I
So
appreciate
I'm
that.
fine
No,
with that.
that's great. That's great. And again, I'm not asking for a sense right now. Thank you, Mike, for just trying to articulate your thoughts. But if you have one, Terry?
I was just saying, your question is a good one and an obvious one to ask, but it's just the mechanics of it won't yield what you want.
So right now, the couple of questions that I'm keeping track of in my head for Steeple Run have sort of been asked and answered in this group. So are there any new questions? I don't have to have an answer now. If we have an answer now, great. We move on to other things. But I don't want to rush someone. But are there some other questions? Because right now, the sheet's empty for questions. Any other questions? Mm-mm. Well, if there are no other questions, it's incumbent upon me to get a sense of the board. If there are no questions, there's nothing that can happen between now and then. Am I on the right track? Okay. So, I'm in support, but I echo what Mike says, be darn creative, and I think our superintendent knows my feelings. No LRC should look like it did 10 years ago. Learning doesn't happen that way, and we better be pretty creative about it. So what we're doing, we're giving a sense to get a design plan together for this phase 2 or the increased scope. We're not approving the number yet. The bids haven't come out yet. So
yeah, it's a reminder. Again, with that, these are estimates based on what they estimate the construction to be. It's formal action comes when bids are opened and returned. Right. And at that point, then is when you would formally accept or reject bids that come in.
So, would people feel more comfortable on October 7th? I'm great with that too.
We've worked with White for a while now and had a terrific experience with Naperville Central. Certainly that was built at a very opportune time, and so we were able to save considerable amount of money, and our contractor we worked with did a very good job value engineering that as well. The same experience at Mill Street, so I'm confident that they are very creative. I mean, we've seen an enormous amount of creativity from them, and then we have existing relationships with wonderful contracting firms who do a good job of taking that vision and turning it into a reasonable price and a reasonable reality. I understand those numbers can be malleable sometimes, and we always like to see them go in the opposite direction when they change, to go down rather than up, and have had good luck with that. I've also been around Steeple Run for more than 10 years, and that's something that we've been talking about since I've been around, is that they need that space. Our schools that only had, especially our bigger schools like Steeple Run, which has grown, they need that additional space for lunch, for eating, for performance. We want our kids to be able to have PE and band, and they need that space for that. And then, of course, that flexible space. So I think I'm very supportive of that, and think we have a good track record with our architectural partner to get it done.
Okay, appreciate that. And I think we're down to Susan and Kristen. Do you want to wait till the 7th? I want to be respectful. We didn't spend this amount of time on a number of other larger additions. So I mean it sincerely. We're not in a rush, but I do think we want to capitalize on the summer. We don't want to just kick the can down the road to. So would you like to wait on your sense, or would you like to speak up?
I'm just content with it going on the agenda next month and moving it ahead. I don't have a problem with it.
Okay, so
I've already said my piece, but I think it's really interesting that we've had other schools that wanted so much, and they filled our room and they stand up when we talk, and it's wonderful that this group trusts their administrator and the board, and
we can certainly,
that will keep
that
their
can
best
get
interest
done.
in mind.
You do 3 emails and that can get done, but is that the right programmatic reason?
No, I think
right?
it's wonderful.
Yeah,
I think it's
is that
really
the right
wonderful.
programmatic reason? Okay, so there are 5 board members, in all due respect, that would like to see the sense of the board is to do design plan in the Donna?
Can I ask one more question?
Uh-huh.
So I've heard the concern about the LRC, and I know that we're repurposing the current office so that things from the LRC can move in there. Is there any work being done in the LRC as well?
We're saying, yes, we're saying do that. Look
Because
at it.
that was not
creatively.
part of the plans that we looked at last
In terms
time.
of the space and its relationship to the current LRC, that's where the work would be done. The current office space in relationship to the LRC, and what functions go back out of the LRC then creates that opportunity to create the flexible learning spaces.
So there will be more work done in the LRC as well?
Greg,
or just
you-
the moving out of it? I'm sorry, I'm not.
In the specific library itself?
Yes.
No, but getting
Okay.
that out of there creates the
Right.
opportunity to create
Okay.
that
I just wanted to
flexible
make sure
space.
that that's how I was understanding it. Thank you.
Okay.
Okey doke. So am I correct in the sense of the board to let our administrators go through on the design plan, as it is now, not a vote, a design plan on the increased scope? Okay. Sounds good. Do you have the direction you need?
Thank you. I have no other reports.
Okey doke. And so President's report, I do not have one. Board of Education reports. Does anyone have any report? Then it is time to come to our board member, our esteemed board member, Mike Jensch, did bills and claims. What do you have to report?
Oh, it was wonderful. I learned so much. And Donna was nice enough to hold my hand while I was going. Figuratively. Good thing none of that was on the mic. Okay. I move approval of warrant number 381665 through warrant number 382458, totaling $17,752,417.19 for the period of August 20th, 2013 to September 16th, 2013, along with the rest of the consent agenda 8.02 through 8.04 as presented.
We have items number 8.01, 8.01, 8.04 on the consent agenda, and
And I'll could you vote, please? Sorry. Romberg?
Yes.
Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Waukee?
Yes.
Yench?
Aye.
Prati?
Yes.
Price?
Yes.
Fielden?
Yes.
Before us in a report format last. Oh, sorry. I'm that loud, I probably didn't even need it. This agenda item, the first reading of board policy for online and blended education programming was on as a report item, just as an introduction, and will be discussion without action. So I turn it over to you.
So we do bring it to you tonight for our first reading. I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Superintendent Kane Osborne. I don't know that there's any additional comment. There are some changes that have been in there, reflective of conversation that the board had last time. Specifically, title has changed to be more reflective of its intent. And then, Kane, were there any other highlights that you wanted to call attention to the
I don't
board?
know that I'd call them highlights, but answer some questions. Ms. Crowdy had asked about the use of shall in the opening. We did consult with the attorney, and that if we're going to adopt a policy that's aligned with state code, we should use shall to indicate that we are going to do that. Did include a line about virtual or in-person class activities under 3C to make that clear. And other than that, there were no other changes for first reading.
Actually, I do think there was one other. You took out a sentence at the very end.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm trying to open it right now, so get it. I'm not playing games.
I think I took out a.
No, I guess gotta open
see. I think I took out a sentence that was reference to a policy that's not currently in place.
That's fine. I was going to just ask what the reasoning was, and I didn't say there was a bad reason. I just.
No.
Let me see. It was about the annual review, if I remember. Okay, and I got it open now. Okay, in the new one you say monitored by board policy development 2.240. In the old one you said the same thing and included as a topic for discussion in the annual report required by board policy 6:10 educational philosophy and objectives. It shall include a discussion of the process for renewal of the program when applicable. I was just wondering what the thought was behind taking that out. I'm not taking a side. I just
the board policy development. The feeling was that that's sufficient, and the education policy and objectives isn't currently a developed policy. So there's nothing in that. It's a placeholder.
Oh, okay. So that was left over from the boilerplate.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions regarding this first reading?
Sorry, what was the part you said, I'm sorry, about the shall, that because it's a change, because of the state law?
Yeah, because this policy is aligned with statute.
Okay.
The attorney recommended that we keep the shall in there.
Okay. And what was the second part, the second question you answered?
3C, I believe, there was a question about what the use of the phrase class activities in light of an online policy. So we just clarified virtual or in class because, as we talked about, we would see
Some
blended
bricks
opportunities.
and mortar too, right?
Yeah.
I love that.
Thank
yeah.
you. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the problem was originally it required bricks and mortar.
Right, right.
And the point was we may not always want that. So,
Donna.
So in the opening paragraph, the second question or the second line where it says the remote educational program shall provide an opportunity for qualifying students to participate in an educational program delivered by the district in a location outside of a school. So does that kind of counter what we just did with the in-person class activities?
It just means it can be delivered outside of school as part of its delivery. It doesn't mean it's not an exclusive.
Okay, I read it as the way it's written as it's exclusive. So which
Okay.
number is that?
I think
At the
the
very
part-
top paragraph.
The part that I read is the provide the opportunity. So it opens, this policy opens up the opportunity to do it outside, beyond just what we already do here.
Okay.
Any other questions? Michael?
yeah, getting back to, I know I brought this up 2 weeks ago, and you guys have had time to toss it around. As far as, bottom line, what's the hurry? And I think I heard somebody say, well, we got to have this to cover our butts for ombudsman. But, and if I misheard that, let me know. But just to point out, ombudsman, we've had a contract for years, just like we have with the bridge. We spell out our expectations, and they provide the services we desire. So the way I understand the way we run ombudsman and, the bridge, for example, developing a policy just for that is probably not necessary. So that brings us back to the question is why would we want to write a policy before we're undertaking, what's going to be a fairly rapid consulting exercise and, have to look at this in 6 months and rewrite everything again. I mean, we're trying to write something on programs we have not developed yet. Unless we're doing this just for ombudsman right now.
Or the online program we have, right, for the one summer program?
Dr. Hester, do you want to talk to the input that the Evergreen has given regarding this?
Yeah, I was going to go back first. I know with the ombudsman, when we met with the attorneys who are helping develop the board policy, they had recommended at that time that we need to have what was then titled the remote learning policy. So that's why we went in that direction to begin with. And then in terms of the work with the consultant, it was also their recommendation as well that we, and they did look at Illinois school code from, obviously in Illinois, not just in general. And their recommendation was within the scope of the work that this was a first step that we would all want in place.
And Evergreen did read the policy itself.
Yes.
And commented on it before we submitted it, this particular policy. Okay.
And I think it actually supports us in some of the learning that we're doing right now. When you think about some of the things that we're doing through Canvas, I think it's a policy that supports us with that as well.
Well, and, do we need a policy to cover what we're doing now? I mean, I guess you could say we have a policy. And, I think too many times we're looking at this as, just computer-based learning instead of really taking that next step into distance learning or blended education program. And I just don't have a warm fuzzy that we have a good idea what that's going to look like yet. And we're writing a policy, based on a consultant's recommendation that we should have a policy.
That's aligned with statute too. I mean, so that was part of it also.
That
it's aligned with statute. It's very much comes right out of the Illinois statute on remote education. So there is that aspect of it also.
Okay.
I'm sorry, any other questions on online and blended education program policy number 6.185? And it is on our agenda, will be on our agenda for October 7th to be voted on. And we come to the next thing. Any other questions? Sorry, I didn't want to. Schedule events are out there, and again, always thank you to Julie and her department for keeping us very up to date on everything throughout the calendar year. And our last thing on our agenda, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you all.